So here's the thing. Everyone at the moment is worried that AI is going to make education worse, not better. It's going to make our students lazy. It's going to make teaching more if handed over to the tech. Now here's the thing. Everyone is worried about AI making education worse. It's going to kill creative and critical thinking. It's going to make our students lazy. Now, I had the same thought, but over the last 10 weeks, I've watched something pretty incredible unfold with my grade 9's class. Now, over those 10 weeks, I set them a entrepreneurial design challenge. I said, look, now you are going to become a real creator. You are not just doing digital design. The purpose of design is to solve real problems and actually help people. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's first figure out what are the problems that our current school or students are experiencing in this AI world. And for us, it was looking at grades 5 to 9. Now, what we're going to do is solve those problems that they're having with. And now the cool thing is, once I set the task of we need to solve real problems and actually do it for other people, not just creating for the sake of it, something really cool happened. The critical thought increased dramatically. Their ability to communicate and actually reflect and evaluate what are they doing and how are they doing it skyrocketed. The progress I've seen in the last 10 weeks of these students is incredible. And pretty much I wanted to explain today that the use of AI can determine if we are going to overly rely on it, we're going to use it for outsourcing our thinking, but I've seen the opposite, and I want to explain that and I want to showcase that today. So if you're new here, my name is Vaughan Littlejohns. I'm a Director of Technology in an international school here in Thailand. I also share all the cool stuff we're creating with AI, and I help educational leaders lead AI in their institution and educational settings. So let's get into this podcast. And so in this episode, I'm going to break down what actually happened in the last 10 weeks with those grade 9 students. And what are the core takeaways for you if you're an educator in this space, or you're just worried that AI is going to make us lazy and it's really just going to outsource our thinking? Now, the first thing I noticed was literally last Tuesday. We have gotten to a point where over the last 10 weeks, they have done market research, they have looked at case studies, they have done data analysis, they have put out surveys, they've got responses, they've communicated, they've been working in a team to basically pair up and solve a real world problem for a different grade. So my students are in grade 9, they're targeting grades 5 to 9. And it's all about digital citizenship and AI use. And they're basically trying to solve a problem. What are the lack of knowledge? What are the areas of lack of knowledge for those students? Digital citizenship, AI literacy, technology literacy, those kind of things. And then we are designing chatbots to then interact to get more data and more feedback, and then they're going to design educational games to reinforce the learning that the students already know, but also enhance and fill the gaps of what they are actually missing in regards to digital citizenship and AI literacy. And the really cool thing was we had a couple of things. Now, what we expect is AI is going to do all the thinking for us, but there's a simple framework that I put in place, and we've just run that through our entire school and my previous school before that and a couple in the UK. Pretty much we use a system called the traffic light framework. It's just a communication method. When's AI being used? When is it not? When is it acceptable? When is it not? And for me, for my students, it was like, hey, let's not outsource all of our creative thought. We went through various processes. We went through different tasks where they have to, the one that was Tuesday was they had to email. They got to a point where they've created a chatbot, they've run a presentation, and they're ready to go. They've done all this pre-work. They're ready to now launch a trial, present to literally a cohort of people to try to use their product, which is at this point is a chatbot that they've built. And they spent 45 minutes roughly, because they're working in pairs, collaborating, critically thinking about how is this email going to land to this teacher that they're about to request 25 minutes of their class time for. Because they're basically going into these classes, they're then presenting their chatbot to the grades 5 to 9, whatever grade they're working for, and then they're going to ask the grades to actually engage with that chatbot and have a conversation with it. And they're all being designed about digital citizenship and so on. Now, I didn't expect it to take them that long, but what we found was they were genuinely, I suppose, anxious, which is a good form of anxiety. I'm pushing through the growth barrier here. I'm learning something new about how is this going to land? How is this going to get communicated to the person on the other side of this email? Because they want a response. They want the person to reply and say, yes, that'd be fantastic. Come at this time. But it's all about audience, about communication of that concept. Now, for this, we didn't use any AI. We brainstormed, we gave copywriting structures, we looked at your title, your intro, your execution using active language, your PS statement, all of the things that come through the entrepreneurial mindset of like, you have to be able to communicate and sell your product or sell your service or persuade someone to say yes. Otherwise, you're just creating for the sake of it. And this is where that reality check of, everyone's outsourcing to AI. No, what we saw was, no, they weren't using it. They refused to use it. They were like, I need this to work for me. And then they sent them off, and then they obviously got responses because we went through it. And I got some feedback from one of the teachers, and they said, those emails were very good, like really professional, because they fired back a response within a few minutes. So the thing of outsourcing the communication to AI, it's an easy thing to go, let's put that aside. But for the students, they wanted to work with their team. They wanted to figure out, how does this actually work for us? And for me, that was a really eye-opening moment where it's like, they're not outsourcing everything to AI. And with a clear structure like the AI traffic light, they knew when to use it, when not to use it, and what skill set are we trying to develop. Now that brings us to the second point, is that collaboration is really the thing that's driving us right now. We paired them up in groups of 2 so that they have somebody to bounce off ideas, someone to sort of reality check of like, hey, this is going to work, this is not. And because we're learning something completely new, they've done surveys out to cohorts. They had to write for various different grade levels in their language. They had to analyze that data and actually find the outliers, find the common trends, then actually design a chatbot around that. And then they had to do a presentation or create the presentation. All of that had to and needed to require creative and critical thought. They had to communicate and collaborate and evaluate what are the responses they're getting. Are they getting a response? One group didn't get any replies for 2 weeks on their survey. And I said, why do you think that is? Look, we sent one email, we didn't talk to anyone. They started thinking about, how do we actually get people to engage with our services? Because when we're thinking about design and actual problem solving, it's all about the people. And what is more evident these days in all the research that's coming out from OECD, MIT, UNESCO, the big companies that are doing huge amounts of research on AI in education, they're basically saying everything comes back to the human skills. The ability to communicate, the ability to have critical thought, the ability to critically think about and actually evaluate and collaborate with other people. These are the things that we can't necessarily outsource to AI. So this process, these real skills that are emerging from this project is just fundamental. And what I found is when they started building these chatbots, those real skills started emerging. They were critically evaluating the output. I gave them a task. I said, you've designed your chatbot. Now you are going to break that chatbot. Act like you are a grade 6 student who's trying to get it off task and trying to be a bit cheeky. And they had the ball. They had the best time. They were trying to break it. One kid was like thinking, I'm going to write in binary for this to break this chatbot and see if it starts swearing back at me. And honestly, it did, because what grade 6 kid was thinking about binary? But this grade 9 was like, I'm going to think so far out of the box and try to break it. And then I'm going to put in protections or instructions in the chatbot so people can't do what I've just done. And that level of critical and creative thought was really, really fun and really cool to see, because the kids got so into it. They were like, this is really fun, really cool. They got to create names, they got to create avatars using AI image generation. They used all these different AI tools to help create a chatbot. So they're using AI to help them think, to process, and also to create the actual output, because it's a process and a product, what they're trying to do at the moment. So all of this, what does it actually mean for AI in education? AI is not going to replace critical thought. It's just requiring a different type of thinking and a creative and critical thinking. You can just hear the examples of these kids trying to think outside of the box. How do I break it? How do I use? How do I prompt this thing to actually give me a guiding structure so I can build a bot? Or how do I prompt it to help me evaluate or ideate on these issues that we're coming up with? But at the end of the day, the most influential aspects of this are coming through that collaboration, the communication to external people. When we're just on the screen, when we're just doing work for the sake of work, that's the quickest way to disengagement. But having guidelines, having rails, having structure to explicitly teach these skills has helped dramatically. But it's coming back into like, what have we learned? What are we testing? What are we seeing? What are we noticing? And critically evaluating all of these outputs that we are seeing. I thought this project would have taken a few weeks. I've just kept extending it. We're into week 10. We're about to continue probably for another 5 weeks, because eventually the end goal is to vibe code some AI games for those students, which will be really fun. So I find that the key for AI in education is really just coming back to the pedagogy, and it's really making a real world project that is related to the student. I used to have a phrase when I was a head teacher: we need to make kid cool projects. If the kids aren't engaged with this idea, or they don't see it as cool, they're not going to want to do it. And so it's the same thing when we have to do hard tasks, different kinds of content, because we're still bound by curriculum. Just having a way of experimenting and putting a different lens on it and shifting into that creator economy, that entrepreneurial mindset of like, how do I solve a real problem? How do I communicate it with other people? How do I get other people on board with my idea? Because all of those build so many foundational skills of leadership, the ability to not be based in certainty and scarcity of mindset, and it's all about growth. So when it comes to AI in education, those are the fundamental things that we always worry about. We're going to lose. AI is going to take over and it's going to do all the work for us. But what we see is when we set a real world task for these students, a real world chance to engage with something that could possibly make real impact for other people, that world of education is just drastically improving, and the students rise to that challenge. So it's very cool to see the pace in which we can move. And for me as the teacher, I'm literally just one step ahead. I've got the outline of where we need to get to. We've got the begin with the end in mind, but I'm literally just pacing it out one step ahead, because the students are really testing my skill set to come up with and ideate with them, be alongside them, to inspire and to give them a little seed here. Hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And it's really just a fun project to do. Now, so look, I'm not saying we don't need to be cautious and critical about AI in education. All I'm saying is if we empower our students with real projects that affect real people, they can use AI and not be blocking it. We can give them the power, we can give them the structures, because we've gone through so many more writing skills, because that's another one we talk about. So many more writing skills, prompting to email, to presentation, to all these different communication methods, just one little project that's turned into a big project. So maybe the question's not, will AI in education make it worse? But maybe think about, are we giving the students projects worth thinking about? So if you're a school leader and you're thinking about implementing AI in your school and you just don't know where to start, just let me know in the comments or send me a message. I'm happy to help and collaborate and give you that first step, because we're seeing really cool impacts in our classrooms right now, and all schools that I'm working with are finding that once we get the basis set, we can remove that uncertainty, and the power of educational use of AI is amazing. I just had one feedback from a presentation I just did for my whole staff. They said, wow, I never thought about using AI to teach or getting the kids to use AI. I've always tried to stop them using it or block it, because it was always around cheating and academic integrity and honesty and those kind of things. So if we have those shifts in mindset between what can we take forward, what can we protect, we're coming back to, are we being better as educators or are we not? So it's a really exciting time. If you've liked this episode, let me know in the comments, share it out to any of your colleagues who could be inspired, but happy to connect with anyone who's needing it. Remember, effort equals results. I'll see you in the next one.